This is Scott Rawlings, professionally on stage known as Stephen Scott. Been with the Windsor Magic Circle since I've been 16. Prior to that, me and some of the buddies created our own Windsor Magic Circle Junior Edition until we were 16. Then we could join the official club. So that means I've been with the club, let's add here, over 40 years. Yeah, 40 years. First time I went out to the club was my grandfather wrote a letter to the Windsor Star wanting to find out if there was anywhere his grandson could find a place to learn some magic. And the club, the Windsor Star, wrote a story and said that there's a Windsor Magic Circle. So I went with my dad as a guest, and it was held downtown on Olette at the old Red Cross building. And I believe Greg Otto was the president. And that was the first time that I met Warren Stevens and Roy Kissel. And they've been members of the club for many, many years. So they treated me with like the new kid on the block, which was awesome, and showed me a lot of tricks. And then from that point on, I guess how everyone starts, I guess I got my first magic kit from Santa at a young age, and my dad exposed me to the magic. He was good friends with Bob McNay, who was Oopsie the Clown here on television, and Bozo the Clown. And then he had two fireman friends that had a clown team, Sparky and Bananas, that worked out and did promotions and stuff for CKLW and a variety of things. And so at a young age, I was exposed to that. And I guess Tommy White was my mentor, which was my dad's fireman's friend. And he was the Bananas of the Sparky and Bananas team. My first public show was when I was 11 years old at Riverside Library. And then my first magic convention was at Abbott's, the magic capital of the world in Colon, Michigan. And I went there when I was 1982. So I was, I think, 15 years old. It was my first magic convention. And I've been attending since that convention. It's kind of like a small little Amish town that's just 2.5 hours from here. And magicians from around the world gather. And it's kind of like Vegas comes to Mayberry once a year, and everybody gets together. It was the summer home of the Great Blackstone, and a lot of history there. So it's kind of when I'm available to go and not working, I attend. That was the main one because it's only 2.5 hours away. I did go to, there used to be one in Toledo called the Glass City Convention, and they stopped doing that. And then I would also go to the Columbus Magi Fest, which is usually in February. So those are the three main ones that I attended. I'm now, I guess, 30 plus years with the IBM, the Lincoln Ring magazine. So I got a Order of Merlin Shield, I guess they call it now. So you've been so many years with the IBM. Good organization and good group of people. We've met a lot of good friends at the Windsor Magic Circle, and I guess I'm one of the old guys now. When I first started off in magic, I always was interested in doing stage illusions, and that was my focus. I wanted to build a touring show. I first started off with my manipulation act that I guess I was 17, and I won at the contest at Abbott's, and I got picked up by a touring show out of New York City, and I was the opening act for them, which was in Canada, come to think of it. It was in the Maritime Provinces. It was one of those fundraising shows, and I was the opening act. And then after that, the promoter of that tour hired me, and I did 3 years of touring out there to raise money for Sick Children's Hospital or fire department or whatever. One of my students, Jason Cunningham, on stage known as Jason Byrne, was my opening act and my lead assistant for our touring show. And now he's off in Vegas, and he's doing very well out there. Magician of the Year a couple times in a row. He's been out there for almost 30 years. How it all began was Jason worked for me. I taught him his first beginning of how to do manipulation and work with doves, and then he established his own act, and then he competed in contests and done very well with that. So we produced a show for Bob Lyland with all our stage illusions, and he did that 5 shows a day, 7 days a week, was ready to be auditioning for shows in Vegas. So he had all the practice from that theme park. So he's been my right hand man at a young age, and then he left Windsor to go out to California and Vegas, and that's where he's at now. We've had quite a few people in the Windsor Magic Circle that have done quite well for themselves, you know. It's kind of an interesting being on the border town. We're close to Detroit, so a lot of the magicians from Detroit would attend our meetings. So we've had that influence of both Americans and Canadians here. So it's kind of like a small family. Everybody gets along, usually. Hopefully there's more brother than hood in the industry. So
That's a good one.
yeah. So, but so basically I went through college to get my degree in architecture and design. I designed my illusions, had them drawn up, built the touring show, did the touring show, installed the shows at theme parks when I wasn't performing and touring in theaters, and then sold the show after we'd done several years of doing with it. I worked with this mentalist, and he walks on stage, and he was always teasing me because he had a little briefcase. He said, "See you later, guys," and we're still breaking down the illusions and filling the truck, and he's just like, "This is my little act, and this is how much I get paid." And then after a while, to me, being an illusionist is a young man's game. It's heavy equipment and a lot of trucking and dancers, and it's just a lot of coordination. And at the end of the day, after you've paid everybody, what you're left with is almost the same as what I go out and do a corporate show myself. So I sold all that equipment and started getting into doing comedy magic, packing light, playing big, and I do miss the illusions, but it was a time and place, and I did it for probably over 10 years, from 20 to 30 years old, and kind of got out of that and got in. I still have a few pieces that I do for corporate events, but in general, nowhere near what I used to have, all the equipment. So now I do, I've done fly-ins where I bring in my act, and it's small enough that I can pretty well do it anywhere under all conditions and not have to deal with all the other parts of the puzzle of a touring show. You know, it was funny. I remember in an early stage, that was when I first met Johnny Old, and said, "Look, this is what I want." And he kind of tried to talk me out of it. Same with Jason. He tried to talk to Jason. There'd be no need for, card manipulation or whatever. Because Johnny is a birthday magician, and that's his thing. But that wasn't my aspirations, was to be doing birthday parties. I did it, and everybody does it, I guess, so to speak. But at a certain point, you kind of choose to go, this is the direction I want to go in. And that's not what I do. I usually hand it off to other people to do, because that's something they truly enjoy, and I can do it, but it's not something that I focus on at all. Back in 1991 was our last tour, Atlantic Canada, that I did out there. I created an illusion called the Decapitator, and basically during the show I would step into a cabinet in full view, and then blades would be put through my neck, and then I would grab my head and slide it off my shoulders, and then we reattach it to the So yeah, that was something I did for a few years. It was part of the Boblo show that we had, and got great reviews. And then after touring with it for a bit, I decided I'd make it available for sale for other magicians to be using. And then I got into a situation between David Copperfield and Andre Cole not wanting me to make this available for the general public because, completely different. Mine, you could do at any point during the show, where theirs was different things had to be in place for you to do it. Mine, I liked my version. I didn't even know about their version. So then they had contacted me, and Jason was out in Vegas, and his promo tape was part of Boblo's show, and he was doing the illusion, and they kind of didn't want me. And I wasn't going to get into the big boy battle and lawsuits and all that stuff. So I just said, listen, appreciate you guys. I keep it for myself, and I just won't make it available for the mass market. So, well, I mean, obviously my two mentors, Bob McNay, who was Bozo and Oopsie the Clown, and Tommy White from Sparking Bananas as a youngster, those two guys sparked interest in magic. And my dad reading the book on Houdini when I was in kindergarten, so I always found that interesting. But I grew up around the 70s era, so seeing Doug Henning and early Copperfield was my inspiration. Blackstone Jr., Harry Blackstone Jr., Lance Burton, Siegfried and Roy, all those guys were kind of I'm always interested in seeing new magic. I mean, the Pendragons back in the day were a great double team magic act, and there's a lot of acts out there. And the like the New York guys that are out there, some of them I don't even know. It's just I'm from a different age, I guess. And I don't know if it's good or bad. The old magic stores, they're like a thing of the past. A lot of people are learning on Facebook and different social media platforms of learning magic. And back in the day, if someone fooled you, you'd have to do research and talk to people or go to libraries or whatever. And now, look it up download it or look at it online, or somebody will watch you do something if you at a show, and next thing you know, they'll be on YouTube trying to figure it out and research it. It's just a different day. I think it's like the music industry; everything's consumed so fast, and something that took me a long time, or saving my paper route to buy an illusion or whatever. Now they got these guys exposing magic just as fast as you were buying it. And for me, it's never been about the tricks. I mean, I do enjoy being fooled, but I think the presentation and personality and a variety of things like that are key to success in this. Anyone can buy a trick, but make it your own and your personality around it. And I think I learned a lot when I first saw Barry Manilow, where here he's on stage and sitting on a stool talking to the audience and connecting, and I'm like, I told that to Warren Stevens, and I said, and he said, what he say? He said to me, he says, it's taken me my whole lifetime to what you have just told me. And I said, Warren, it's not about the tricks. It's about you as an individual, your personality. If they like you, they'll follow you, and that's the key. At least that's what I've found. So be nice and not be a prima donna, and be respectful of people and things, and I think you can go very far. Well, we had Stephen Scott's Haunted Review, which was a horror-themed, Halloween-themed shopping mall promotion that we used to bring to the malls, and then we'd have everything from costume contests, and we have a big theatrical display. It looked like an old haunted house. And then my brother, he used to be into breakdancing, so I got him dressed up as a zombie like Michael Jackson's, and he'd start the show coming through the door, and lots of fog, and it was a themed show that we did at the shopping malls. And then I got into doing independent film fun projects for myself, so it was kind of, to me, special effects is magic in the same way in Hollywood, and fooling the audience into thinking or seeing something. I've always found it fascinating how illusions are created. I mean, I'm old school. I like the old practical effects, like the original Star Wars and things. This new CGI type stuff, it just becomes to me like a video game, and a combination of the two is good. Like I've seen, where they combined practical effects of changing someone into like the Wolfman, and then having him run as a CGI effect, and the two together, I think, is a good marriage. But the whole thing being CGI, no, I'm still old school. I still like seeing models and things. So one of my favorites is still John Carpenter's The Thing, and that's like a 1982 movie, and that was all practical effects. And you look at it now, and it still stands the test of time. It's great. Same thing with Jaws. Jaws is one of my other favorite films, and in the reality, you only saw the shark maybe 10% of the movie. The rest of it was the suspense and building up to it. It's, like the old Alfred Hitchcock style stuff. Less is more. I've always thought that. I'm a big fan of the old classic comedies, Abbott and Costello, the Three Stooges, Laurel and Hardy, the Marx Brothers. Timeless comedy. Still works. The slapstick stuff works. Nieces and nephews, for sleepovers, we play all the classics. And they enjoy it, and it still works. They're still laughing. I feel blessed that I got to see all this stuff, because I mean, what I see now, I don't know if I'm biased or just an old guy, but I just I like old school. Nothing beats a live show. Audiences make the difference. Just like busking shows, when you're on the street, you have that interaction. You don't have that with TV. I don't get me wrong. I love seeing Star Wars on the big screen. That's the way to see it. I definitely think joining a local group, be it magic or improv or taking dance lessons. There's all these variety of different things that you can use in your show. Dale Carnegie I took, which was, public speaking and that kind of thing. But I think finding your local club, your local, and if they can't find that, find a magic shop. They'll probably be able to turn you on to certain areas where you can learn, and then getting mentors to share ideas. You'd rather make a mistake in front of your peers than doing it in front of a live audience. I've enjoyed it. It's good social outing, that kind of thing. You can learn a lot, and if you're not, you can also share a lot. So I think it's a win-win with everything, really. Gypsy's Thread's really a piece, and me suffering with depression or seasonal affect disorder, depending on the year, I thought this was a good piece of magic that I could incorporate people dealing with struggles, and then so I worked around a storyline with that and talking about people, being broken and that kind of thing, and then tied it in with breaking the threads, and then just saying if people have a little faith and believe, things will all work out fine, and having the thread all restore. I'm getting great reaction from that. It's kind of a bit about me sharing a little about myself personally, I guess, and so people can connect that way, I guess. You take things for granted. I've noticed that when I was doing a show at Santa's Village in Bracebridge, this lady came up to me with her children, and she's like, I want to thank you for bringing smiles and laughter to my kids. And I'm like, oh, I'm glad you had a good time. And she goes, no, you don't understand. I've been in a women's shelter from my husband and the kids. We haven't been out. This is our first outing kind of thing. And I want to really thank you for enlightening them and having a good time. That was the first time that I actually didn't take what I do for granted. Having somebody come up to take the time to tell me that impacted me. You don't know who's in that audience. Just like me as a youngster seeing the magic show. Who would have thought, I saw something, I'd be inspired to do magic. You just really never know who's in the audience watching, I guess. I think artists or performers are probably their worst critics. They're never happy. Like when I do art, and it's like, it's okay. And other people are more excited about it than myself. There's always nuances or little subtleties that over the years, I added this little bit or whatever, and it just becomes more refined. I ended up applying for a government grant. I was 17. I got a grant from the government, and it allowed me to perform at nursing homes and daycare centers and parks and rec and all over. And I got paid for the summer. Me and a fellow magician from the club, we both traveled the city and did that for that summer. Opportunities do arise. I don't know if there's grants like that available now, but that's something I had when I was 17. I was working prior to that. I was at Captain Carnival's as the house magician. This grant came available, so I had to take a leave in the summer because at that Captain Carnival's I was the house magician, so I was doing the magic for the kids' birthday parties and all that stuff. This grant I got, I went and did it, and then by the time the grant was done, Captain Carnival's was closed at the end of the summer. So